Welcome to Built to Win, the podcast created to help you level up your business game by developing a success mindset made for the long run. In this episode, Neora's Dave Fleming talks with Area Marketing Director Leah MacDonald, who shares how Neora has allowed her to translate her business skills into a thriving enterprise that gives her freedom, flexibility, and has let her explore the joy of helping other women do the same.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Built to Win. Super excited about this episode. I have a very special guest from Queensland, Australia, which is super exciting to have somebody. I believe, Leah, you might be our first official international guest on the Built to Win podcast. So thank you for joining us all the way from Queensland with the time difference and everything. And I know you were just here in the States and got off an airplane, so with the jet lag and everything. So thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Let's start with the basics. Like, for those that don't know who you are, we've been working together for the last, I guess, 3 years or so, but would love for you to just introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, like, where do you live? Tell us about your family, and like, what does a normal day look like for Leah MacDonald?
Thank you, Dave. Well, as Dave said, my name's Leah MacDonald. I live about 90 minutes inland from Brisbane in Queensland. We actually just moved there a couple of years ago. We did a tree change, which honestly would never have been possible if it wasn't for this business and being able to work online, which is very exciting. But I have 2 children. Harry is 12 and Greta is 9. And crazily, when I first started Neora, Greta was 6 months old and Harry was 3 years old. So they've definitely grown up with Neora as their whole life. That's all they know mum to do, really.
That's amazing. Yeah. So tell me, what were you doing before? Obviously you had very, very young kids when you got started at Neora, but what was going on in your life before that?
So my background is in finance. I was a mortgage broker for 15 years. I had my own business, a very successful business, actually. I had office and staff and, all of the things. But, any other mothers or parents out there would know that once your children come along, time is different, and being self-employed before, I've obviously had a lot of experience being self-employed, but it was a different kind of self-employed to what Neora obviously offers. Anyone who works for themselves in a more traditional style of business knows that you have the illusion of flexibility, but really there is not a lot of flexibility, especially, I was in finance. So finance clause deadlines and contracts and purchases and, all of that, it was very, very hectic, and there was very little room to move on time from that perspective. And with one child, I managed to make that work for a few years. But as soon as my daughter came along, having 2 at home with me and trying to juggle all of that just became obvious that I wanted to personally make some changes. And I know everyone makes different choices and has different priorities at that point, and none are wrong. They're all up to the individual, but I really wanted to be at home with them more in a more flexible way. But at the same time, still wanted to earn income, still wanted to have a career and feel that fulfillment and be driven and challenged in that aspect. So Neora kind of fell into my lap, actually. I had 2 girlfriends that I knew crazily in 2 completely different circles, message me on the same weekend asking me if I would take a look at this company that was about to launch into Australia. And I'd never done network marketing or never done anything like that before. So I kind of took it a bit of a sign from God, or the universe, or whoever you take your signs from, that there was something for me to look at here, because again, twice in one weekend from 2 totally different people, I was like, okay, I'm looking, I'm listening, right? And crazily, I had been talking to my husband in the kind of couple of months leading up to that, I don't know how I just felt like a change. I felt like I definitely was looking for something different, and it really did land in my lap. It wasn't what I thought I was looking for. But at the same time, I was like, those results, those before and afters look amazing. I'm tired of mum of 2 kids. If they do what they say they're going to do, I think I'm going to know a lot of people who are going to want this product.
Yeah, for sure. Like, especially moms moms of young children, tired moms. We do have a
Yeah.
lot of those as customers and as our brand partners. But was skincare something that you were interested, passionate about before joining Neora, or was that kind of you found that passion?
Look, I've always used skincare. I had been interested from a consumer perspective, I guess, but really I had no real clue about skincare at all. I definitely was not a passionate skincare person and knew all of the latest trends and things. I'd kind of used a few different things over the years, which had been okay. But certainly once I tried Neora's products, nothing compared to the results that I got from that. And it's been 8.5 years of loyal usage of new only and solely Neora products since I became a brand partner. So yeah, definitely not high on my priority list at the time.
Yeah, so now you're definitely walking the talk. So tell me about like that transition. Was that a difficult transition? Because I know the mortgage business is high stress, very intense. Like I mean, you're dealing and maybe give us a little background because I'm making some assumptions about what the mortgage business is like in Australia when I'm thinking of the mortgage business in the United States, but I know that there's some similarities there.
I would say so, and I'm not super familiar with the US, like how that works, but yes, it is. I mean, it's commission only. You really have to go out there and create your own results, I guess, so to speak. I started broking when I was 22, and started my own business in that at 23. So I've definitely been
Wow.
in that space for a very long, very long time. Yes, because I'll be 44 this year. So, but obviously had its stressful moments. It was kind of cutthroat. I mean, when I first started, I was one of the very few young female mortgage brokers. Like a lot of the broking space was older men, a lot of ex-bank employees kind of thing that had kind of rolled into that mortgage broking space, especially independent, mortgage brokers not operating from a lender or an institution solely. So yeah, I feel like I was kind of cutting into a new era. I mean, there's lots of females in the space now, but definitely back in the day when I first started, it was few and far between having a 20-something-year-old woman as a mortgage broker.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. We do like pioneering entrepreneurial women here at Neora for sure. So you definitely fit right in. I wonder, I wonder, like, did that help prepare you for this business? Now, I will say our business is like 90% women as well. So that's kind of a little different than the mortgage brokering business. But what did that owning your own business and running your own brokerage account and like did that prepare you for running your own business here at Neora?
I definitely think from a not I mean the industries are very different, like in terms of the actual application of how you do the business, so to speak, but I think there's definitely fundamentals that would have carried across and mapped across, some mindset stuff that I think and I think any former business owners would relate to, the whole if it's meant to be, it's up to me kind of mantra, that when you own your own business and you don't rely on a check being paid to you every week from but just by showing up. I think that that's definitely helped from that perspective. My parents were self-employed, so it's really all I've known my whole life, that kind of space. They had a small business my entire childhood and adulthood, so it's something that I've been around. So understanding the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of business, I think, has been very handy. Do you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
when you are employed, it's a whole different, I guess not skills. It's not a skill set issue. It's more of a mindset or an attitude around how that kind of works. Knowing that lots of work that you put in on the front end, you don't necessarily see the results instantaneously. And I know we speak about that a lot, and you've spoken about this on the podcast. The front end work, the slight edge. It's like easy to do in the moment, but easy not to do, and also you don't actually see the results immediately for work that you've done. So when you are in business for yourself, that obviously, that plays a big role, in how you show up from a day-to-day basis.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, actually, I'm glad that you brought that up because we do talk about like consistency and persistency, and we talk a lot about the slide edge, and those are core principles within the slide edge. I'm curious, you'd learn those principles in your business. Had you ever heard of the slide edge, or was that all brand new when you got here?
I had not heard of the slight edge. It was brand new. I mean, some of the underlying, um, fundamentals of things in heard it in slightly different ways, but I remember reading the slight edge for the first time, and I was kind of like this is the book, this is the thing that ties everything else together. I've been heavily involved in personal development and mindset work very much since my early 20s, and in fact, I'm a NLP practitioner, I'm a trainer in that space. So I spent actually years traveling around the world, actually doing different trainings in that space as well. So that movement is not unfamiliar to me. However, I do think that the missing piece is that overarching philosophy rather than the independent things. And Jeff obviously talks about that a lot. And so when I read that slight edge, I remember very clearly because it came in my kit when we first enrolled. We opened the country, and then 2 weeks later, we happened to have a trip booked to Fiji for my family. And I remember sitting there by the pool. My daughter, who was 6 months, was like in the pram next to me asleep, and I'm reading it. I'm just like, this is so good. This is so good because, you can teach the strategy of any business to anyone and the skill sets, but without that overarching philosophy and the willingness to do the same thing over and over until it starts producing the results, without that framework, it's very, very difficult to see success in any aspect of our life, whether it be business or health or fitness or, finances even. It's like, does it matter if you spend $10, at the cafe, for a coffee and a muffin or whatever it is, but you do that consistently, and your bank account's going to reflect that. So it was a big aha moment for me that really was like, wow, piecing that in amongst and on top of all the other resources and training and the skills and everything else, that's the piece that people really need to hear.
Yeah, take me back to when you said yes to this, because I'm curious, because like you're an entrepreneur, you've owned your own business, you run your own business, had some children, want to do something a little bit different in your life. I'm always curious, like what was it? And maybe it wasn't one thing. You mentioned like the universe was sending you signs, like this was something you needed to look at. But was there one thing or maybe a combination of things that made you want to say yes to this? Because obviously you could have done a lot of different other things and been successful at any number of them, but ultimately you said yes to this, and you've had a remarkable successful journey here. So I'm just curious, like what was it that kind of tipped you over the edge and where you said, this is it, this is where I want to go?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, understanding the power of that moment that was launching something new into Australia, I think was um, hit me in a way that I was like, oh, this is new. Like this is something that these opportunities don't come. Ironically, we're having the same conversation in the week that we are launching something new, very huge. But at the time, obviously, launching into Australia, we launched on the 20th of October, 2016, and I kind of heard about it a few months before that, about 3 months before it kind of came. So it wasn't a huge lead up time in terms of when they opened. So understanding that, I think was powerful. I'd been in business. I understood, timing, and there's always situations where people are like, oh my gosh, I wish I had have known about something before it started, or I wish I had have known about something before it blew up, or whatever. And so I kind of saw that in the opportunity. But I think for me the biggest thing was truly the ability, or what I was looking at, the perceived flexibility that this could give me. I had no issues with the industry, not that I'd I mean, I'd been a user of network marketing products a lot before. I knew lots of people who were doing lots of different things. I had no negative connotations about it or anything like that. But I always had thought up until that point, not really for me, right? But timing is everything, and life situations change. And I think that's a big part of it. I was looking for something that was really flexible, that I could do in and around my kids and my husband's job and, all of the things. Because again, when I was doing finance, like no one cared when their finance was due for their home purchase, no one cared that my kid had been up all night or I was tired or they weren't napping or, whatever it is. So I really was looking for something that truly allowed me to still be consistent, to still build a business, but to do it on my own time zone, or time frame, and what worked for me and allowed me to be the mum that I wanted to be and be home with them, but at the same time still be able to create something really meaningful.
No, that is fantastic, and that's something that we do hear quite a bit about. Building a business and growing a business, but doing it on your own terms. Working it when you can, when you want to, and then consistently over time building something. And that's something that is pretty special, pretty powerful about Neora, is that we do allow people to build a book of business and customers that stick with you. But I am curious, like, was there something that you did differently than everybody else to build your business? You built a very successful business. So I'm curious, like, did you find the secret formula, or like, tell me, how did you go about building the business that you now have?
Oh, I really wish there was a secret formula. Look, I mean, and people ask me this all the time, and I think ultimately for me, what has been the constant driver through everything is having a very clear picture of what I wanted to create. Yes, we can build this flexibly. We can build it on our own terms, in our own timeline, and what works for us. And that's not always easy. Do you know what I mean? Like, in fact, often it is not easy because there are so many competing things. It's like I've literally been back in the country 2 days, and one's had sport, across country, and one's had a choir performance, and we're launching a product and like all of the things. So it really, for me, I think the secret sauce is intentionality, and knowing what you want and why it's important to show up even when it's busy, right? So one of the best things about this business is that it is, or this industry as a whole, is that it is super flexible and you can do it when suits you. But one of the difficult things about this industry is you can do it when suits you and you can show up when you want to. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the best and the worst bit of this. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, when I talk about this with my team a lot, we can give you all of the resources, we can give you everything, but at the end of the day, we can't do it for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to show up and you have to want it. And I think the secret is just being really clear on what you want. Without knowing what that is, there is really no reason to show up. Do you know what I mean? And that, as a mum, as a parent, there's always things vying for our time and our attention. And it does take that internal conviction, I guess, to your goal, whatever that looks like, to be consistent enough to give it time to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, there's like, and we talk about it in the Slide Edge, which we talk about, not to go back and rehash that entire episode. Go back and listen to that, everybody. But we talk about, things that are easy to do in the moment and they're easy not to do in the moment. But then it's the compound effect of doing the things that are easy not to do, but easy to do, that ultimately gets you to a destination that is beyond where people kind of expected they could, which is really exciting. It's cool to see people grow and develop and build something and exceed even their own expectations. Of course, there's always the flip side of, things like sometimes expectations don't match up. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, you've been doing this for a few years. I'm curious, like, what are your favorite parts about a business like this one?
Oh, so many things. Truly, and I had a real moment yesterday, actually, and I've had many of them over the years, but I I think a lot of people mistake people in this industry as just doing it because of what they get out of it personally. Do you know what I mean? Like their own personal
Mm,
goals and the income and the trips and the this and the that and the accolades and the rank advancements and all the things. And they're wonderful. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day,
mhm,
of course, to show up and build a business, you want to be getting those rewards and things for yourself too. But truly, my favorite part of this is helping other people and seeing women win.
mm.
Well, majority of my team is women, so you know, and I know there's some lucky men who work with us, but truly seeing women step into their own confidence, their own power to get recognized when in the real world, I think there's a huge, you know, not everyone feels that or gets that in their everyday life. And to see someone feel valued and, you know, celebrated when they may not be getting that outside of there is really powerful. And you know, obviously with my background in finance, I have a huge desire and understanding of, you know, the power of additional income, the power of that extra. You know, I kind of talk a lot in my circles and, you know, in my social media and things like that about the get ahead money. Do you know what I mean? Like right
Mm.
now we are, I don't know what's going on with inflation or cost of living. I mean, it's out of control. It is wild. I was not long ago before I was left for Dallas, I was going to get my son a haircut. And it was like $39. And I'm like, he's 12 years old. Like, this is ludicrous. But anyway, I digress. But, you know, I am really passionate about helping women change their financial situation, whether that be that supplementary income, whether that be something bigger than that and more life-changing income. But at the same time, like $500 extra a month is life-changing for so many people. And I really, you know, watching people earn bonuses and thrive and to get that, I mean, that is my favorite part. Even more so than me hitting my own personal goals and things like that. I truly um, I absolutely love being able to help other people win, and that really drives me.
No, I love that. I love well, I love that you like seeing other people win. And I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with direct selling or network marketing or what we do, they kind of assume that, you know, like you said, like you are out for yourself, you are in it for your own accolades, your own income, your own incentive trips. And so I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I think a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot of people, maybe I'm not giving people enough credit, but some people they think that's well, first of all, I don't know that they even believe that that's possible in this business. And then secondarily, like they think, well, it's, you know, if I get into this, I'm doing something for you. So I'm glad that you talked about that and mentioned like, no, this is as much helping other people as it is building your own thing. And when you do help other people, then you do benefit, but that's kind of like the greatest part of the business, in my opinion. I'm curious, you know, because we have, you know, here we broadcast out of the United States, and in direct selling, network marketing, sometimes people have a, you know, different reactions to that. You know, sometimes very, very positive, sometimes not. I'm curious if like, is there a kind of a general sentiment around direct selling and network marketing in Australia? Is it similar to the United States?
Um, I think it depends on different circles. I think, you know, like what probably is the same over there. Um, there there is a general stigma, I guess, attached to the network marketing space. It's definitely evolving, and I mean, I don't pay any attention to it, and I don't put any energy or focus into it at all. And I mean, there's going to be people who like it, don't like it, approve of it, don't approve of it, you know, all of the things. But you know, I think when we give something energy, it grows and it multiplies. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm,
personally, I mean, I very rarely ever have someone say, "Oh, it's a this or it's a that," or you know, have any negative connotations. I mean, they might think it, but they don't say it to me. But I think they that probably comes more down to um, look, they know I'm serious about this and I treat it like a business, and I've been doing it for 8 years, and they probably don't, they wouldn't probably say it to my face, right? And that's fine.
Mm.
But yeah, that like everywhere, I think there is an old school mentality that some people still hold on to around network marketing and what the views are around that. But the industry has evolved and shifted and changed so much that there is definitely an education piece that has been brewing, and a movement of obviously re-educating the general public in terms of what it is. And I think obviously Neora does an incredible job of being that beacon of obviously that gold standard of what the industry really should be now. So we are confident in what we have and what we can share and how we can impact people. And if people are open, then they're open. If they're not, then they're not, and all of that. But we are definitely not your, Uncle Bob's cousin's, network marketing company that was in the 1980s, with garages full of stock and, all of that. So but, those beliefs and stuff are passed down and passed on, to people. And I do find that most people don't have the experience themselves with it. They're just, absorbing other people's opinions or something that they've been told at some point in their time. So for me, I think the way around that is to really just show up authentically, to do your work and to show up with your business in a professional manner and with that consistency to build that trust and legitimacy with what we're doing, which we know we have, and just be really proud of what we have and what we can offer people. And I think that's all we can really do. Do you know what I mean? Is show up and educate where possible, and to help as many people, because that's really the proof in the pudding, right? When people are winning and people are earning and thriving, then it's a win for everyone.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. No, and that's really interesting because I agree with you. I think direct selling is going through a bit of a renaissance, and for all the right reasons. And I think that's really exciting because and I talk to people all the time who are, like you take any industry, I don't care, like mortgage brokering or real estate or fast food, or, take any industry. There's going to be some really, really good businesses that do it really, really well. And there are going to be some other businesses that really don't do it very well. And you're going to find everything in between. And I think a lot of people just don't necessarily know what to look for, or how to identify a good company in this space. We should probably do a podcast. It'd be fun to have a panel, an international panel of direct sellers, and talking about what makes a good company versus not a good company, without naming names, of course. But
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, when I was mortgage broking in finance, I remember, it was like, oh, you're a loan shark, and I'm like, okay, fine. Like, look, every industry has its good and bad, as you said. Car salesmen, real estate agents. Like there's good and bad in everyone. And I think, you do the right thing, you align yourself with an amazing company, and you can stand tall and proud in what you're offering.
yeah, well, and I think one of the biggest testaments to what we're doing here is the kind of people that we attract. And you're a wonderful, shining example of the kind of people that are attracted to what we're doing here, because you're great. You've helped a lot of people. You have an outstanding team, like really, really great people on your team. And a bunch of them were just over here, which was great. We had fun seeing them all together. A couple of questions as we kind of wrap up here. One just for fun, and then one I'll get a little bit more serious on you. But first one, less serious. What is something about Australia that most people don't know?
Oh, that's a good question. That wasn't in the list. I need to
I know.
prepare for. Something that people don't know about Australia. Look, it's so funny. Whenever I travel overseas, it's generally, "Are you from Europe? Are you from Britain?" That's the first thing people ask me, and they will literally ask me like, are there kangaroos in your backyard, or like koalas like just crawling around everywhere? So I think everyone thinks we're an episode of, Crocodile Dundee or Steve Irwin or, something like that. And it is not not accurate. But I think, I mean, Australia is a fantastic country. I love traveling, but I also love coming home. We have the best coffee. I'm just going to say that. Like, if you talk to any Australian who travel abroad, the first thing that we do when we get home is we have a real coffee, is what we kind of call a real coffee. But I don't know, like I do think the US is getting better at some of their coffee that's available, but some of it is absolutely rubbish.
Hello. Yes, we're getting better because we're importing from Australia.
Yes. But oh gosh, I can't really think of it off the top of my head. Something that, yeah, I mean, look, we are very similar in a lot of ways to the US, like in terms of what we do, but also we have our own unique spin on it. Yes, everything gets shortened, everything gets a nickname. We're already calling Neofilla Neo as as a shortened name. We're just like
I love
everything
it.
that we can possibly shorten is done so. But yeah, I mean, we like to have a laugh. We're lots of fun, and yeah, think we'd like to show people a good time when they come and visit.
I can vouch for that. I have never been to Australia and not had a good time. And one of the best things, and maybe the Australia Tourism Bureau can sponsor our show, but I'll put my plug in for Australia tourism. But it is like one of the coolest things is going like downtown Brisbane and having lunch on the river and just the whole ambiance, the vibe. Like it is unlike anything else. Like there's nothing quite like that anywhere else in the world that I've seen. It's really, really cool. Last question for you, and this one, as I mentioned, a little bit more serious. What advice would you give somebody who's looking at this maybe for the first time? Maybe someone like yourself who's out there and taking note of the universe giving them signs. What advice would you give somebody who's looking at that saying, can I even do this?
Oh, I think ultimately my advice is do it. And I know that that's very succinct. But I think there is absolutely zero downside to being a part of something that is going to help you create additional income, help your support circles and network, and give you an incredible group of people to surround yourself with and cheer you on, and that community piece of it. I think, so many people come to make extra money. Do you know what I mean? Like that's often a really large driver for people. And whether it be extra money because you need it or extra money because you want to get ahead more quickly or you want to fast track those financial goals or whatever it is, I think, as someone who was in business, who ran my business simultaneously alongside doing this for about 12 months before I decided to sell my other business, it only enhances. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of times people will say to me, I don't know if I can add one more thing to my plate or, like what I've got going on. And everyone is busy, everyone has their own version of busy, regardless of what is making, filling up that time. But when the opportunity is something that allows you to do it and run it alongside it adds so much more rather than just the time, than a time commitment for yourself, if that makes sense. The growth of your, how you're showing up in the world is huge when you add something else like this to your life, to be able to, learn something new, but in and around what you're already doing. So many people, I think, expect it to take so much extra time, extra hours every day to create something meaningful in this space. And it's just really not true, especially when you are using products that you love and you are organically having conversations. That's where things start. And then obviously, depending on what your goals are, you can put more or less time or whatever it might be. But I think ultimately my advice would be, you absolutely have nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing this. and because it is so flexible and you're able to choose how you want to do it, there's always a way to make it work for your life. I have women in my team who are working more than full-time jobs, like hours that I think, wow, that is crazy that they're working in their job with their children and their family and their life, who are crushing this business and earning extra income for them, their families, and trips and doing all the extra things that they're accomplishing by plugging into the system that is allowing them to do that in that amount of time. I mean, it's the ultimate thing for busy people, truly, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, it's exciting to see and continue to see people who traditionally maybe would not have chosen this type of business model to add into their suite of what they're doing, really take this and run with it and to have incredible success with it on top of everything else that they've got going on.
Very, very well said, and not surprising. Very articulate and very, very well spoken. You are. This has been great. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me. I know you literally barely have had time to breathe since you got back into Australia. So I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join me on the podcast. And best of luck to you as you take whatever is next for Leah MacDonald. I'm sure you're going to crush it.
Thank you so much, Dave, and I'll see you in Cabo, if not before.
Yeah, we probably will before, but yes, if Cabo, if not sooner. All right. Thanks so much, Leah.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me.
That was Dave Fleming talking with Leah MacDonald about thriving with Neora. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you learned something from it, please share it with a friend or colleague who you think would also benefit. And if you're new to Built to Win, we invite you to go back and listen to our story from the beginning. You can find us wherever you download your favorite podcasts. And while you're there, please rate us and leave a review to let us know what you think of the show.